Hello, my loves. Welcome to V for Vibrant, or welcome back. My name is Kellyanne, and I've got a new setup. Oh, wee! I'm really excited to be in this space and to get to have my little pinky room all set up for me as I share one of my compassion messages with y'all today. And usually my compassion messages are a little bit more emotional and like spiritual, brainy coded, but this time it's like very grounded, very action oriented. So this is my spiel today is it's time to start making commitments to seeing and being seen, not just for performance's sake or for trying to do or be something that you think other people want to see, but so that you can start to create, uh, even in just your own little pocket of the world, more of the world that you wish to see. And these commitments can be in the form of devotions of some kind, something that feels very love forward for you. They can be something that feels very justice forward for you. They can be something that feels compassion forward for you in terms of like the witnessing of the suffering that's going on in areas of the United States, if that's where you live and that's where you're watching from. Hello. Hello, neighbors. And if you're in other areas of the world, I would love to know where you're watching from. So let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Hi. um, Whatever's going on in your area of the world doesn't necessarily mean that the commitments that you make to, be seen need to be for the purpose of, like I said, performance, because that's not the point. The point is that you have dreams and taking one or two actions toward the world that you dream of. And this is very Martin Luther King Jr. I have a dream coded. But there's a dream that you have for the way that you think the world should work, the way that you think the world should look, the way that you think the world should feel. So take a moment to just tune into, how do I want the world to feel more of? Do I want the world to be more respectful of each other or respectful of nature? Do I want the world to be more honest? And that's what I need right now, or that's what I think the people in my life need right now. Do I want the world to feel more joyful? Do I want the world to feel more attuned to rest? Whatever it is that the feelings that you want to cultivate. It's like planting seeds, we have to sow seeds for the gardens that we want to grow. And that's my message for today is, you know, what kind of world do you actually want to live in? And what are some of the commitments that you can make, those bigger action steps? We tend to think of our commitments in really big, really big, kind of overwhelmingly large steps that we need to take, though. So when I say big steps, I don't mean like changing the world overnight. I don't mean like overturning the government, which is a big step that I would like us to take. But it happens in many other small steps that what I mean by big step is they feel big for you. So a small step for mankind might be one physical step on the moon, on the surface of the moon. But a small step for you might be drinking an extra glass of water so that you have few more spoons to spend in the day. You have a few more energy points to spend on uh, being in service to other people or listening and paying attention to your body's signals so that you don't burn out today what you would be able to continue spending tomorrow. You can kind of help your energy build. Those are like the small steps that you can take, but a big step is something that you feel uncomfortable with. A big step is something that you've been meaning to do, but just haven't done. So it might look like going and actually making that call to the dentist because the world that you want to see or the world that you would like to feel is one in which you're no longer distracted by the physical sensations that are making you so uncomfortable that you can't pay attention, or maybe you're like living in fear. I'm using a personal example. Um uh I had dental work done where I had cavities removed, and then a dentist did really poor work on my back molar and my front tooth, and my back molar filling popped out, and then my front tooth was chipped, and you can see in like earlier earlier videos around like uh 2023 maybe, or 2024. Yeah, it was like probably 2023 that I had like a big old gap in my teeth and just felt like the really sharp sensation of my teeth, and felt the gap and like the pain of the sensation of like sweetness or hot or cold in my teeth. And that was distracting me not only from being in the present, because I was so present with the pain that I was experiencing, but also it made me time travel in such a way that like it provoked my nervous system and it provoked my anxiety such that I was starting to futurescape, like build a future in my mind in which I had worse problems because I didn't take care of my dental problems now. That's what I mean by a big step that is for you, that is a compassionate one that's centered in love and maybe also centered in justice. How are you going to be around and be able to show up for all of the bullshit that's going on if you don't have presence of mind, because this one thing that's personal to you is keeping you from being active in ways that are personal on a larger, grander scale? You know, some of these like little big steps are things that we need to take care of now before things ratchet up even fucking crazier, so that by the time that we get there, we aren't distracted by the easily distractible. We aren't distracted by the things that maybe we couldn't easily take care of before. Like my dental problems went on for so long because I didn't have dental insurance. And I'm sure that is the case for a lot of people watching, especially if you live in the United States. Most of us are not insured by healthcare providers because it's a scam. It's a literal scam. And also, you know, the companies here are pulling back on benefits because they'd rather pay their CEOs millions of dollars than make sure that the people whose labor is producing all of these profits are safe and comfortable and well and feel whole and complete as people. So, without invoking all of your humanity to be forced out onto the table for you to look at all of these scraps of you that feel like they need patching together. Find just one. Find just one that's distracting you the most and making you uncomfortable in an unproductive way. Because there's a difference. There's a difference between productive discomfort and unproductive discomfort. Unproductive discomfort is going to distract you in a way that's not going to help you grow and is actually taking away from the ways, like I said, that you could be active toward the injustice that you're seeing, or active in the sense that you'll be able to align better with your own values, like be able to speak up for yourself or show up in conflict or confrontation, or really renegotiate some of the boundaries that you have in some of your relationships, whether it's, more intimate relationships or it's career and work oriented relationships. There are a lot of ways that you probably want to show up right now, and they're on the list, but the little small things like drinking a glass of water more than you have been every day, that's a small. That's like a, you know what, I add it to the list and maybe I force myself some days. But kind of that sense of I force myself may need to take place for a bigger step that feels a little bit more unreachable. So maybe that is trying to apply for dental insurance that you can then cancel once your dental work is done. Maybe it is applying for jobs that have insurance as a part of the whole package. Maybe it is getting back on a parent's insurance plan, or maybe it is calling around to different dentist offices and just seeing what their consultations cost so that you can do that big step, which is sometimes like really boring legwork. That boring legwork is going to take you further in the long term if you do it now. I know, it's so annoying. We want the short term payoff and we don't want to have to do the boring stuff, especially for ourselves. Ugh. I just want to do, my time is limited. My time is limited. My energy is limited. I just want to do the fun things for me when I get to choose what I do with my time. My time is being preoccupied and usurped by capitalism. Me? Ugh. I don't really want to have to spend more time on the capitalist agenda outside of, I'm so sorry. I know. I get it. And this is the reminder that we still have to participate in capitalist systems because that's the system that we live in, even while we are working toward the world that we dream of, the world that we feel is possible, the world as we feel it and see it in our mind's eye, in our collective vision for better. That better can only happen if you're taking real care of yourself now, not the hashtag self-care version. Buying another face mask or bath bomb, or signing up for a $10 a month gym plan that you're probably going to give up 4 months from now because you've done it so many times before. That's not real care. That's not really caring for yourself. That is the numbing, avoidant, uh, superficial care that we tell ourselves. I know this is going to be hard for some of us to hear, and I feel you. We tell ourselves that we're taking care of ourselves in this way, in this way, in this way, in this way, but they are not significant because they don't produce long lasting change. So here is the way that you can really anchor in and ensure that the commitment that you're making is one that produces long lasting, long term change. And it's, will this step, will this small, big step for me be something that removes a future-scaping anxiety? Will I be able to be more present because I won't be worried about the seed that this is planting for the future? It's a toughie, but we have to think about the long game. We have to think about the long term. And I hope that this message and this video has helped you do that. Because not only do you deserve it and do we deserve it, but you matter. You matter. And we want to keep you around for the long term. We want to keep you well. The people who care about you and the people who are a part of the community that is revolutionizing what community means, what neighbors are to each other, who neighbors are to each other. We care about you, and we want to see you not just survive. We want to see you come alive. Maybe thrive feels a little distant. Maybe thrive feels too far in the future to be planting that seed now. But we at least want to see you come alive. As in, be present, find presence. Aliveness is a tree whose leaves are moving to face the sun as the sun rotates. That's presence. That's being alive. That's being here in the now. Trees aren't worried about if the little bit of fungus that's actually eating a part of their bark, not in a good way, in a bad way, in a parasitical way, is going to kill them a decade from now or 2 years from now. So if you're worried about that little parasitical bit that's kind of eating away at you, that's keeping you from being present, that's keeping you away from the aliveness that is focusing your attention on the thing that's shining on you right now, right here, right now. And it sounds maybe a little contradictory to say we want to be able to keep you here for the long term. We want to be able to create aliveness together for the long term. But that means that you need to be grounded in the here and the now. But I would try to make the connection here between the long term and the here and now by saying the long term can only happen because the present is our only point of power. We don't have power in the past. The past is gone. We don't have power in the future. We don't know what it's going to look like. And we can't act from the future. We can only act from the now. So if the present is our point of power, then that's the only place from which you can become alive and really, I want to say like arrest the moment, you know? Like it's kind of like the novelty of being a kid made every moment stretch into infinity, and it felt like our lives were so much longer when we were younger, and the days were longer and the years were longer when we were younger because so many things were new to us. And the sort of like aliveness that happens in that novelty, which can sometimes be disguised as boredom. Like, yeah, it's boring to call around and it's annoying or it's frustrating or maybe you're like afraid you have maybe some kind of social anxiety that calls you that um makes you avoid making calls. The aliveness that you feel in that frustration, in the anger about how our systems work and how it forces you to call around for the best deal on dental care, on body care, on living care, on health care. That is a novelty. Feeling frustration and anger and rage and that kind of fear or even a certain kind of boredom or a certain kind of monotony, that creates novelty because it's a feeling that you're avoiding, so you're not feeling it a whole lot. And that means when you step into it, it creates a newness for you. It creates a moment in time that stretches out. So while you may not want to stretch out calling around for the dentist or doing whatever little big step that is going to prevent you from being so anxious about the future that you can start to become more alive now, you might not want it to be that kind of aliveness, but becoming present with and becoming more aware of and stretching out moments because you're attuning to the kinds of actions that you have to take in order to preserve the future. That is going to build up your distress tolerance, which we also need for us to see the revolution come about and see the revolution anchor us in new ways of being, new old ways of being, because we used to be able to live in harmony with nature and with each other. And then colonialism, right? As we return to the new old ways, we need to be able to tolerate the distress and the boredom that comes from those little mundane tasks that cause us to become more present and more alive in our frustration and rage. Because that's what happens when we become closer to the the energy that's coursing through our systems. Not only our internal systems, but our external systems. We need to be able to tolerate the distress and the discomfort of working with people we wouldn't normally choose to be friends with or even acquainted with. Because that's what community is. That's what and who neighbors must become to us. The people that we are actively building community with on purpose because nobody deserves to be left behind. Certainly, there are certain enforcers of the law who need a little reprogramming, and we'll see how that goes. If they're able to tolerate the discomfort and distress of learning that their own worthiness and deservingness of aliveness can only be real and can only be honest and true and filled with love if it is tied to other people's deservingness of aliveness. And as we gear ourselves up toward that sort of moral, ethical, spiritual war, we have to do the boring material, physical one that I framed at the beginning of this video, which is we got to take a small step, a small action that is actually kind of a big one, because not only is it asking us to reshape how we think of and feel about our futures, but also it builds distress tolerance. And those commitments to see and be seen doing things that we don't actually want to do are going to help us get away from the performative version of being alive and actually help us tap into what aliveness truly feels like, which is embedded with all of these kind of troublesome emotions that are actually really fantastic because they teach us about ourselves. They teach us about what we need. Anger teaches us about the injustice that we feel that we're seeing and the actions that we need to take to right the wrongs that we're seeing. For example, jealousy is a really annoying emotion, but it can tell us and show us what we want more of that we don't feel like we're getting enough of in our lives. All of these annoying emotions crop up when we do the uncomfortable physical tasks that are required for staying present and staying alive. And if it feels like novelty to you, that's the point. Stretching into moments, stretching deeper into moments, making moments last in which you're experiencing discomfort for longer and longer periods of time. Not just because you're scrolling on your phone and you saw that somebody else in Minneapolis was just killed by ice. Not just because of that. Not that sort of discomfort where you're triggered and then you keep scrolling or you avoid and you render away. Ah, the thing that causes so many emotions to ripple up at once. It's totally understandable that you would want to put that away, that you would want to not develop a tolerance toward that kind of distress. So let's work on just one kind of distress at a time. That's manageable. That's a small thing that we can do. That's actually kind of a big thing. And it helps us build the world that we wish to see and that we wish to feel, which is a world in which we're fully alive, fully alive in our humanness and our realness and our weirdness and our strangeness and our connectedness and our intimacy with each other. Ah, we have to let go of the myth, though, that being uncomfortably numb with all of this micro self-care is going to get us there, though. Gotta let that go, because the short term is inevitably the short-term fixes are inevitably going to turn us into only short-lived distress tolerating people. And that's not what the revolution needs. That's not what the new world needs. Didn't think that I was gonna get into a revolution in this video. Didn't think that I was gonna talk Brave New World in this video. But I guess that's the undertone of all of my work at this point, is recognizing that all of the anti-racism work that I've been doing internally and also within groups and communities that both I've facilitated and have been facilitated for me, it leads you to seeing everything with a lens for recognizing the discomfort that Black folks and people indigenous to the Americas, including Mexicans and Native Americans, have been um, sort of quietly going through by people like me's standards, by white people's standards. Stuff that goes unseen by us because we don't live in those communities or because we don't have family members who matter to us, who can relate those stories to us. The uncomfortable truth is that we're not rebuilding the world for white people's comfort. We're rebuilding the world for everyone's aliveness and everyone's deservingness and worthiness of that aliveness. And so we have to talk revolution, and we have to talk colonialism, and we have to talk about distress tolerance and building toward that now, building toward that in all the ways that we can possibly imagine, just not all at once. So here's your call to action. List out all of the little teeny ways that you take care of yourself already, or could be doing more, and then push past those teeny ways into like medium-sized ways. What are some of the medium-sized ways that you could commit to taking better care of yourself or taking better care of someone in your life? Because I acknowledge that sometimes taking care of others is a way for us to get more grounded in our distress tolerance. So, what are those medium ways? And then push a little further. What are some of the big ways? And what's one of them that is going to cause a releasing and a relaxing and a relief? I can't tell you how freaking relieved I was when I got my teeth actually fixed. I cannot tell you how relieved I was and how much more like myself I felt and more available for other things. I was so stressed out. Like the HR person at the place I used to work at, where I finally had dental care, was like, "Girl, let me tell you about my dentist. Let me give you their number." And they just so happened to be 10 minutes away from me. And I was like, this is a wild coincidence. Not even 10 minutes, like 5 minutes, a 5-minute drive away from me. Pure coincidence and pure alignment with a big uncomfortable thing that I needed to do because I don't like the dentist for obvious reasons. Bad dental work many times over can give you, that white coat phobia. But I gotta say, I have built my distress tolerance toward going to the dentist. And now, because I am healthy and well in some ways, in some more ways than I was before, I'm not worried about my future as much. And I can continue doing things in the present even more grounded, even more expanded, even more deeply. Because I'm not worried about what's coming next. At least not where these are concerned. What's the one big thing? And if you want to, you can even challenge yourself by putting it in the comments here and just making that commitment right now. It's hard to name, and it's even harder to commit to. And I acknowledge that. And if you write your commitment in the comments, I am going to just send you a big giant whoosh of doing energy. I hope you feel it. Because you've got this. It's going to be easier now that I just sent you the big whoosh. Now that you've had that big whoosh of doing energy, you've got this. You can tolerate discomfort. You can tolerate distress. You can handle being a little enraged for a little while, a little frustrated, a little bit sorrowful, a little bit anxious. You can tolerate it. Ask for help. Let people know what is stressing you the fuck out. Because I guarantee you, the moment that you start talking about it, the moment people are going to reach their hand out and say, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you up. Often we think that those big, enormous little things that we need to do that start with just one little step but kind of feel really too big for us. We think that we have to do them by ourselves just because we're adults now, and we don't. Adults, the most mature thing that you can do is ask for help. Because it's only white supremacy and patriarchy and capitalism that has taught us to do things to bootstrap it, to be rugged individualists. And that ruggedness is what keeps us from the emotionally mature thing, which is being vulnerable enough to let other people know that we need help. Ugh. Not that big a deal. Not that big a deal once you start to practice it. I promise you. You've got this. I believe in you. You can do it, and you will do it. Hey, and in my mind, I see you doing it, and oh, you checked it off the list, and it's already done. I invite you to do it. I invite you to visualize it just being done. And let that feeling of relief wash over you. And then take that step. Take that first little big step. I love you. You are deserving of all the wellness and aliveness and love that you desire. If you would like more resources that are going to help you get unstuck, maybe, I've got a couple of links in the caption for this, in the description for this video, that might help you. And if you would like even more help in like a one-on-one sense, I can also do a card reading for you. So we can figure out what your next big steps are and the things that are blocking you from getting to that next space where you feel like, I can breathe again. And now I'm more present for others, for myself, for community, for being in service to the world that we wish to see. It's all there for you if you want it, because you deserve it. You're deserving of all the love you desire, and I hope you have a beautiful, wonderful rest of your day. Love you, my darling. Mwah. What was that? I think I do these, and then I also do this, and this was a little, I don't know. But there it is.